Thorsten Benner is a co-founder and director of the Global Public Policy Institute. He has recently written a report on China's increasing political influence in Europe. He joins me now from Berlin. Thorsten, good to see you. Mr. Ren told us in his interview with Karishma that Huawei would never undertake any spying activities. But how does Beijing see the company?
Look, you cannot believe that statement. First of all, the main risk is sabotage, not just espionage. Imagine a situation, there's a conflict between China and the West and the US. We've given them a front door into our very critical communications infrastructure if we allow them to equip our 5G high-speed mobile networks. They can undertake sabotage operations, and it's simply not true. Under the logic of the Chinese one-party state, the government can instruct any private company to undertake sabotage operations, and the company will comply.
So were you surprised that we've had cyber security chiefs here in the UK saying that any risk posed by Huawei can be managed?
Well, we haven't seen the fine print of the arguments, and I'm very curious to see what the government will ultimately come up with, because I personally do not think that the sabotage risk can be easily managed. It's simply reckless to compromise national security and to give Huawei a front door into our critical infrastructure with this. So we haven't seen the end of the story, and I think in the coming weeks, when the UK government kind of prepares the final decision, they will also take into account the concerns by the US. The UK is part of the Five Eyes alliance. Two of the Five Eyes countries, Australia and New Zealand, have already banned Huawei on national security grounds. And I'm not entirely sure that the statement that was leaked to the press this week, that the risk can be easily managed, that's the final word.
Yes, but the UK risks upsetting people on all sorts of different fronts, depending on what decision they make.
Exactly, it's a tough decision. You know, on the one hand, you want to be global Britain and make nice with the UK. On the other hand, you're part of the Five Eyes spying alliance, and you want to manage your national security. So it's a tough decision with trade-offs, but ultimately I think we need to take national security seriously, and as Europeans, that's just not just a UK decision. We also need to invest in our critical technological capabilities. We have two European companies that are in a very tough competition with Huawei, Nokia and Ericsson. And if we let the market run its course, Huawei always has a competitive edge because it has a captive home market, it has state capitalist advantages. And if we just let the market run its course, Huawei will go into markets undercutting Nokia and Ericsson by price, and in 5-10 years we will no longer have European competitors.
Because surely no matter what happens Huawei, in terms of its 5G technology being banned, particularly if the Five Eyes countries all do that, Huawei will survive because they're massive in Asia.
Exactly. No, they're not just massive in Asia, but they're massive in Latin America and in Africa, and there, of course, governments who are not part of the Western Security Alliance, they make very different trade-off decisions, and it will be most likely that Huawei will dominate markets in Latin America and Africa, and the West doesn't have an answer to this because they cannot compete on price, and security concerns are not a serious point of reference for many of African and Latin American countries. They're all too happy, especially if these are authoritarian governments, they're all too happy to buy the full authoritarian digital Silk Road package from the Chinese party state.
Yeah, it's an interesting conundrum for many. Thorsten, thank you very much for joining us from Berlin. Thorsten
Thank you,
Benner
Lucy.
there.
A pleasure.